They say revenge is a dish best served cold. For me, it was served at a table for two in a crowded restaurant on our 40th wedding anniversary. This is the dress I wore that night. My husband Klaus called it a rag. He had no idea that this old rag was about to unravel his whole life. If you clicked on this video because of the title, then yes, every word is true. He cracked a joke and I made a scene that cost him everything. But for you to understand the why I did what I did after 40 years of silence, you need to know the story of this dress. Get comfortable, because this is the story of how I finally found my voice. If you've ever felt small, unheard, or taken for granted, then this story is for you. Do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button right now so I know you're with me on this journey, because what I'm about to tell you might make you rethink your own life. Let me start at the beginning. My name is Monica. I'm 65 years old, and until a year ago, I was the perfect German housewife. At least on the surface. We lived in Düsseldorf, in a beautiful home in Oberkassel, one of those areas where the houses are perfectly kept and the neighbors smile politely but never get too personal. Klaus was a successful management consultant. He had his own firm, advised big corporations, earned very well. We had 2 adult children, Thomas and Sabine. Both had studied and started their own families. From the outside, our life looked like a picture book of the German middle class. But perfection always has a price, and I paid it every day. Over the years, a dynamic developed between Klaus and me so subtle that I barely noticed it myself. It was the little comments, the demeaning remarks, the way he brushed aside my opinions like crumbs on the table. "Monica, you don't understand this," was one of his favorite lines. Or, "Let the men handle that." At business dinners, he introduced me as my wife Monica, never with my last name, never with my own identity. I was an attachment, a pretty accessory to his successful life. But this was different. This dress represented everything I once was before I became Klaus's wife. I bought it in 1983 with the last paycheck from my job at a small ad agency on Königsallee. Klaus insisted I quit after we got married. "A woman belongs at home," he said. "I earn enough for both of us." Back then I thought it was romantic. A man who wanted to take care of me. Today I know it was control. But this dress, it was the last thing I bought for myself, with my own money that I earned with my own work. The years passed. I became the perfect housewife and mother. I cooked, cleaned, managed Klaus's calendar, planned our vacations, took care of the kids. I had no interests of my own anymore, no friends of my own. Everything revolved around Klaus and his needs. When he came home at night, he talked about his day, about important deals, interesting clients. When I wanted to talk about my day, about the kids, the household, little things that mattered to me, he only half listened. He would say while checking his emails. "That's nice, honey. Do you know what was worst? Not the big humiliations. It was the 1,000 little pinpricks. The way he would lift my ideas at dinner parties and present them as his own. How he corrected me in front of friends, as if I were always getting things wrong. How he talked about my hobbies, painting, reading, as if they were cute little pastimes of a bored housewife. 'Monica paints,' he'd say with a smile to his business partners. 'Little flowers and such. Very pretty.' The tone he used turned my passion into something laughable, something insignificant. But I gritted my teeth. I thought that was part of marriage, compromise, stepping back, keeping the peace. German women of my generation, that's how we were raised. The man is the head of the family. The woman keeps the harmony. The cracks started widening about 2 years ago. Klaus became bolder, more disrespectful, as if he had grown so secure in his position that he no longer bothered to be polite. I remember an evening last spring. We had Thomas and his family over. I had cooked all day, sauerbraten with red cabbage and dumplings, Klaus's favorite dish. At dinner, Thomas said, "Mom, this tastes fantastic." "You're such a great cook," Klaus laughed. "Great? It's just a simple recipe. Any housewife can make it." Then he turned to Thomas. "Wait till you hear my new business strategy." "That's truly impressive." Thomas looked at me, and for a moment I saw pity in his eyes. Pity. My own son pitied me. That was the moment I realized how far I had fallen. Another time, on my 63rd birthday, I had hoped we might go somewhere. Just the two of us. It had been years since we traveled together. Instead, Klaus bought himself a new BMW. "A gift for both of us," he said. "You can ride along." He had forgotten my birthday. I became a ghost in my own life. I thought that was my fate, to simply disappear. But a man as arrogant as Klaus always makes one crucial mistake. He gets careless. And his carelessness arrived in a crisp white envelope. It was a Thursday in October, about a year ago. Klaus was on a business trip to Munich. I was home alone, sorting his mail, when a letter caught my eye. It came from Deutsche Bank, but it wasn't our usual statement. The address was slightly different. Our name, but with an addition I didn't recognize. Normally I would have placed the letter unopened on Klaus's desk. But something about the envelope bothered me. Maybe the way business account was printed in the corner. We didn't have a business account at Deutsche Bank. Klaus's firm banked with Commerzbank. I opened it. It was a statement for an account I knew nothing about. The balance made me freeze, over 200,000 euros. But even more shocking were the transactions. Monthly transfers to apartment service Königsallee GmbH, 2,500 euros every month. Invoices from jewelers I didn't know. Large cash withdrawals. And then at the very bottom, transfer to Seed Capital Innotech Solutions, 50,000 euros. My hands trembled. 40 years of marriage, and my husband had a secret account with more money on it than we had in our joint account. Money he spent on things I knew nothing about. The old Monica might have cried, might have called Klaus and hysterically asked what it all meant. But something in me had changed, colder, clearer. I didn't cry. I became methodical. I sat down at my computer and started to research. Apartment service Königsallee GmbH was easy to find. It was a company renting luxury furnished apartments. I called, pretended to be a client interested in their apartments. The friendly lady on the phone gladly told me about their regular customer, Mr. Weber, who had rented their nicest apartment for 2 years. Weber, Klaus. Weber. My husband. Then I Googled Innotech. Solutions. It was a young marketing app startup, founded by a certain Lena Hartmann, 28 years old, a graduate of the WHU Otto Beisheim School of Management. Her photo was on the website. She was young, attractive, and her LinkedIn profile said she was grateful for the support of experienced mentors. Mentor. So that's what they call it these days. But that wasn't all. As I dug further through the papers, I found something that made my blood run cold. Among the documents in Klaus's desk were mortgage papers. On our house. The house I inherited from my parents. The house I had, out of love, transferred into both our names. Klaus had taken out a 300,000 euro mortgage on our house. Without my knowledge. Without my signature. I was co-owner, but the papers showed he had somehow forged my consent. 40 years of marriage, and my husband hadn't just had an affair. He had pledged my parents' house, my house, to pay for his mistress's apartment and finance her failing startup. He gambled away my inheritance, my whole world tilted. 40 years of marriage built on a foundation of lies. It's a crushing feeling. If you're going through something that makes you question everything, I want you to draw a little strength from my story. And if you find this story gripping, remember to subscribe. The best part is still to come. I didn't confront Klaus. The old Monica would have cried, screamed, made a scene. The new Monica became quiet, alert, and methodical. I learned how to act. When Klaus came back from Munich, I greeted him as always. A kiss on the cheek, a question about his trip, dinner on the table. He noticed nothing. Why would he? In his eyes, I was just the boring housewife, too dumb to be suspicious. While he thought I was just doing housework and painting my little flowers, I was preparing. I copied all the documents. I took screenshots of the bank statements. I researched divorce, fraud, forgery online. Then I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Monica Richter, one of the best divorce attorneys in Dusseldorf. Yes, we had the same first name. It felt like a sign. Ms. Richter was impressed by the thoroughness of my documentation. "This is one of the cleanest evidence collections I've ever seen," she said. "Your husband committed not just adultery, but forgery and fraud. You have excellent chances not only to get a divorce, but to receive damages. We planned my liberation like a military operation. I opened my own account. I secured my personal documents. I inventoried everything of value in the house. I prepared for war." Klaus noticed nothing. He was so entangled in his double life, so arrogant in assuming I was too naive to notice. He even told me about his business appointments at night, about his clients who demanded so much of his time. Sometimes, when he came home late at night smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't mine, I smiled and asked, "Were you successful today?" And he nodded and said, "Very successful, Monica, very successful." In early December, Klaus made a proposal. "Monica," he said over breakfast, "let's really celebrate our 40th anniversary. At La Vie. You know, the French restaurant on Königsplatz. La Vie, the most expensive restaurant in Dusseldorf, where all his business partners went, where high society met. Klaus loved being seen there." "That's a wonderful idea," I said sweetly. "How romantic," he beamed. "I'll reserve a table for us. Wear something nice. I want everyone to see what an elegant woman I have. An elegant woman." After 40 years of humiliation, he wanted to display me as a trophy. That evening, I stood in front of my closet thinking. I had beautiful dresses. Expensive dresses Klaus had bought me for official occasions. Dresses that made me look like his successful, well-dressed wife. But then my eyes fell on this dress here. The old, simple dress from 1983. The dress of the woman I once was before I became Klaus's appendage. I put it on. It still fit perfectly, and for the first time in years, I felt like myself. Klaus saw me as I came down the stairs, and his face twisted. "Monica," he said, "are you serious? That old thing? To a dinner at La Vie?" "It's comfortable," I said calmly. He sighed. "Well, from a distance it looks okay. Just make sure you behave. Behave. As if I were a child that needed to be brought into line." The drive to the restaurant was silent. Klaus checked his messages, probably from his Lena. I sat quietly and thought about everything I had discovered. About 40 years of stolen life. About the mortgage on my parents' house. About the lies and the fraud. La Vie was, as always, a spectacle of wealth and self-importance. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, waiters in impeccable suits. Klaus knew everyone, waved here and there, presented himself as the successful businessman. Our table was perfectly placed. In the middle of the restaurant, where everyone could see us. Klaus loved being the center of attention. The food arrived. I barely ate. Klaus was in his element, waving to acquaintances, telling me about his latest successes. I nodded and smiled, the perfect wife. Then, over dessert, it happened. Klaus leaned toward me, a cruel smile on his face, and whispered, "Honestly, Monica, of all the things you could have worn, you chose that old rag. It's embarrassing. Try not to draw attention to yourself, that old rag. It's embarrassing. Try not to draw attention to yourself. 40 years of humiliation summed up in one sentence. That was the moment. The final puzzle piece clicked into place. I didn't flinch. I took a calm sip of water, dabbed my lips with a napkin, and placed it on the table. Then I stood up. My chair scraped just loudly enough to draw the attention of the nearby tables. I spoke. My voice wasn't loud, but perfectly clear and calm. Every word enunciated. You're right, Klaus. This is an old dress. It's from a time when I still believed our marriage was built on love and trust. But you find it embarrassing? Let me tell you what I find embarrassing. Conversations at the neighboring tables fell silent. All eyes were on us. I find it embarrassing that my husband mortgaged the house my parents left me behind my back to finance his 28-year-old mistress's apartment. Audible gasps. Klaus's face turned chalk white. I turned to his business partner at the next table, Mr. Müller from Rheinische Bank. Hello, Mr. Müller. Nice to see you. Did you know Klaus pulled 300,000 euros out of our house to fund a failing startup called Innotech Solutions? The managing director is named Lena Hartmann. Very talented, Klaus told me, especially at spending money. Mr. Müller stared at me, then at Klaus, then back at me. His wife's mouth hung open. I addressed the other guests, all of whom were staring. Please excuse the disturbance, ladies and gentlemen. But since Klaus hates this old rag so much, I'll take it, along with my house, my dignity, and my new life, and leave. Klaus, however, can stay. He can explain all of this to you. I calmly slid my wedding ring off my finger and placed it beside my plate. Then I took my purse and walked toward the door. At the door, I turned once more. Klaus sat there like a statue, surrounded by shocked faces and whispering guests. Oh, Klaus, I called across the quiet restaurant. In case you're wondering where I live, not in our house anymore. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. Then I left the restaurant without a single look back and left him amid the ruins of his public image. What happened after that? The divorce was quick and decisively in my favor. Thanks to the evidence of financial fraud and forgery, I got the house back, plus damages. Klaus became a social and professional pariah. His business partners distanced themselves. Several clients canceled their contracts. Lena Hartmann? She left him as soon as it became clear the money was running out. Innotech Solutions filed for insolvency 3 months later. Klaus lost everything. His reputation, his business, his social circle. Justice was served cleanly and completely. He tried to contact me afterward. He apologized, begged, even threatened. But I had found my voice, and that voice said only one thing. No. See this here? I painted it last week. I'm painting again. Real painting, not just little flowers. I'm even taking commissions. Imagine that. In my mid-60s, I have a little side business as an artist. I have real friends now. Not just the wives of Klaus's business partners who were polite to me because they had to be. Real girlfriends who like me for who I am. Thomas and Sabine were worried at first. Mom, are you sure you can handle this on your own? They asked. Yes, I can. For the first time in 40 years, I'm making my own decisions, living by my own rules. I have peace. Real peace. Not the false calm of suppression, but the true peace of self-determination. And this old rag? It's no longer the symbol of a sad past. It's my flag of freedom. It reminds me who I really am. Not Klaus's wife. Not the quiet, obedient housewife. But Monica. Just Monica. And that's more than enough. Do you know what the most beautiful part of this story is? I didn't destroy Klaus's life. I simply turned on the light and revealed the chaos he had created in the dark. The truth is a powerful tool, and sometimes it's the best revenge. I received letters after the video I posted last month. Hundreds of women writing to me, women of all ages who saw themselves in my story, who felt small, unimportant, invisible in their own relationships. One woman wrote, "Monica, I'm only 30, but I recognize myself in your story. My husband treats me the same way. Thank you for showing me that it's never too late for change." Another, "I'm 70 and thought it was too late for me. After your video, I contacted a lawyer. Next month I'll be free. That is the gift that grew from my pain. Not just my own liberation, but the chance to show other women that they deserve respect, that their voices matter, that it is never, ever too late to stand up for yourself. Some people say I was too harsh, that a public humiliation was too much. But I ask you, what about 40 years of private humiliation? What about the 1,000 small slights, the disdainful looks, the crushing comments that destroyed my soul piece by piece? No, I regret nothing. Klaus had 40 years to respect me. 40 years in which he could have treated me as an equal partner. Instead, he treated me like property. And when he mortgaged my parents' house, he crossed a line that must not be crossed. The public humiliation? That wasn't revenge. That was justice. That was the natural consequence of his actions finally coming to light. Today, I live in a smaller apartment in Düsseldorf's Old Town. Is it smaller than the big house in Oberkassel? Yes. Is it more beautiful? Absolutely. Because every square meter is mine. Every decision I make myself. Every day is mine. I read books again, the ones I want to read. Not the business papers Klaus considered important. I read novels, poems, biographies of strong women. I go to the theater, the museum, readings, alone. And it's wonderful. Last week I was at the K20 Art Museum. There was a painting by Gerhard Richter, abstract, powerful, full of color. In the past, Klaus would have said, "That's just paint splatters. Anyone can do that." Now I stand before it and see the beauty, the emotions, the story in every brushstroke. Do you know what an old friend said to me recently? "Monica, you look 10 years younger." And it's true. I feel lighter, freer, as if I'd set down an invisible backpack full of stones that I carried for 40 years without realizing it. My children have gotten used to the new Monica. Thomas told me a few weeks ago, "Mom, I've never seen you this happy. Dad made you smaller than you were for years. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." Sabine was more direct, as she always was. "Mom, I'm proud of you. You showed it's never too late to stand up for yourself. You're my role model. My role model. A 65-year-old woman who turned her whole life around is her adult daughter's role model. The old Monica would never have dreamed of that. But let me be honest, not everything was easy. The first months after the divorce were hard. 40 years of habits don't change overnight. I woke in the mornings not knowing what to do with my day. For decades, my life had been completely structured around Klaus. I had moments of doubt. At night, when the apartment was quiet, I sometimes asked myself, did I do the right thing? Was it worth it? The loneliness could be overwhelming. After 40 years in a partnership, even a bad one, being alone is an adjustment. But then I remembered the evening at La Vie, Klaus's face when I stood up, the feeling of power when I finally spoke the truth, the liberation when I walked out of that restaurant, and I remembered all the years I made myself small, all the dreams I gave up, all the parts of my personality I buried so as not to disturb Klaus. No, it was the right thing. It was long overdue. There's something else I want to tell you. About 6 months after our divorce, I got a call. It was Lena Hartmann, Klaus's former mistress. She wanted to meet me. My first reaction was rejection. Why should I meet the woman who helped destroy my marriage? But then I got curious. What did she want from me? We met in a small cafe in Karlstadt. Lena looked tired, older than in the photos on her company website. She ordered only a coffee and stirred it nervously. "Mrs. Weber," she finally said, "I wanted to apologize." I said nothing. I waited. I didn't know. I mean, Klaus told me you had been separated a long time, that you only lived together for appearances. He said the divorce was a mere formality. Typical Klaus. Even in his affair he had to lie. And the money, she continued, he said it was his. His success, his savings. I didn't know he had mortgaged your house. I looked at her. This young woman who had been manipulated by Klaus just as I had. Only in a different way. How long did it go on? I asked. 2 years. But in the last months, he became strange, controlling. He wanted to know who I talked to, where I went. He criticized my business ideas, even though he had supported them at the beginning. She looked at me. He treated me like property. Exactly. Klaus's pattern repeated itself. He hadn't treated only me that way. It was his way of conducting relationships. When everything came out, Lena went on, I realized I was just another project for him. An ego trip, the successful older man with the young entrepreneur on his arm. We sat in silence for a while. 2 women hurt in different ways by the same man. Finally, I said, Lena, you were young. You trusted him. That doesn't make you a bad person. She started to cry. But I destroyed your marriage. No, I said firmly. Klaus destroyed our marriage. You were just the tool he used. We talked for another hour. Lena told me how Klaus had manipulated her, exploited her insecurities, isolated her from her friends. It was a familiar pattern. At the end of the conversation, we even hugged. 2 survivors of the same toxic person. What are you doing now? I asked her. I'm going back to my parents in Hamburg, starting over. And you? I'm living, I said simply. For the first time in 40 years, I'm truly living. Lena writes to me sometimes. She has a new job at a marketing agency in Hamburg. She's doing well. It makes me happy to see that she too has recovered. Here's one thing I've learned. Klaus wasn't like that only with me. It was his character, his way of treating people. I wasn't the problem, he was. For decades I asked myself, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't he respect me? What am I doing wrong? The answer is nothing. I did nothing wrong. I was just married to the wrong man. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, if your partner belittles you, mocks your dreams, controls you, or treats you disrespectfully, then it's not you. You're not too sensitive. You're not too demanding. You deserve respect. You deserve love. You deserve a life where you can thrive. Sometimes I get messages from people who say, but Monica, you had it good. A beautiful house, financial security, a successful husband. Why throw it all away? Throw it away? I didn't throw anything away. I took my life back. Financial security is worthless if it's purchased with emotional oppression. A beautiful house is just a gilded cage if you can't move freely in it. A successful partner means nothing if he treats you as lesser. See this painting here? It shows a woman stepping out of a dark house into the sunlight. I painted it shortly after I moved out. It hangs in my living room now, a daily reminder that I left the darkness behind. In recent months, I've started helping other women. I volunteer at a counseling center for women in difficult relationships. I tell my story, listen to theirs, help them understand their options. It's amazing how similar the patterns are. The creeping isolation, the control over finances, the constant criticism disguised as constructive suggestions, the way these men belittle their partners until they themselves believe they're worthless. But it's also amazing how strong these women become once they realize they have a choice. Once they understand they deserve respect. Last week I helped a woman named Andrea. She's in her mid-40s, was married 20 years to a man who treated her like a servant. She thought she couldn't do anything on her own. I haven't worked for so long, she said. Who would want me? Today, Andrea has a job in a bookstore. It's not a lot of money, but it's her money. and she glows when she talks about it. For the first time in years, she told me, I feel like a whole person again. That's what drives me. Seeing these transformations, helping women find their voices again. But don't forget, change is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. After 40 years in an oppressive relationship, it takes time to find yourself again. I go to therapy. Yes, at 65 I started working through my past. Dr. Schneider, my therapist, helps me understand how I could stay in such a situation for so long. How I pushed my own needs so far aside that I forgot who I really am. She explained that it's a common pattern, especially for women of my generation. We were raised to believe our families and our husbands' needs were more important than our own. That selflessness is a virtue, even when it destroys us. But Monica, Dr. Schneider said to me, what good are you to your family if you lose yourself in the process? Children need strong, happy mothers as role models, not martyrs. That made me think. What kind of role model had I been for Sabine? A woman who made herself small, gave up her dreams, accepted disrespect. Is that the message I wanted to send her? That women should suffer so men can feel better? No, definitely not. By standing up, by freeing myself, I showed my children it's never too late to stand up for yourself. That respect is non-negotiable, that they deserve to be happy. Thomas told me recently that my divorce improved his own marriage. Mom, he said, when I saw how Dad treated you and realized I sometimes had similar patterns with Sarah, it was a wake-up call. We started working on our communication. We treat each other as equal partners now. That might be the best thing to come out of all of this. That my liberation helped not only me, but also my children. I get messages every day from women all over Germany who have heard my story. Some are young, in their early 20s, already recognizing early warning signs in their relationships. Others are older than I am and thought it was too late for change. Here's one I received last week. Dear Monica, I'm 72 and was married for 48 years. After your video, I finally found the courage to tell my husband I won't accept his behavior anymore. We're going to couples therapy now. For the first time in our lives, we're truly talking. Thank you for showing me it's never too late. And here's one from a young woman. I'm 25 and was about to marry a man who treated me just as Klaus treated you. Your video opened my eyes. I broke off the engagement. It was hard, but I know it was right. Those are the moments when I know my decision to tell this story was right. If my pain can help other women find their strength, then everything I went through wasn't in vain. Let me tell you one thing I've learned. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to act even though you're afraid. I was afraid that night at Levi. I was afraid of the divorce. I was afraid of being alone. I was afraid I might be too old to start a new life. But do you know what scared me even more? The thought of spending the next 20 years the same way as the last 40. The thought of lying on my deathbed, regretting that I never stood up for myself. That fear was bigger than all the others combined. This dress has become a symbol, not just for me, but for all the women who have found their voice. I get photos from women wearing their own liberation dresses, dresses that remind them of their strength. One woman wrote me, I took out the dress I wore when I graduated, before I got married and gave up my dreams. It still fits. I wear it to job interviews now. It reminds me who I can be. That's the power of symbols. They remind us of our story, our strength, our possibilities. I want to end this story with a message. To every woman who hears this, you are valuable. You are strong. You deserve respect, love, and happiness. It is never too late to change your life. I was 65 when I freed myself. 65! If I can do it, you can too. Don't let anyone tell you you're too old, too weak, too dependent. Don't let anyone tell you you're nothing without your partner. Those are lies designed to keep you small. You are complete even without someone else. You are strong even when you feel weak. You are valuable even if someone else doesn't value you. If you're in a relationship that makes you small, if you feel disrespected every day, if you gave up your dreams to make someone else happy, then this is your wake-up call. You have a choice. You always had a choice. Sometimes it just takes a little time until we see it. Start small. Say no to things you don't want. Pursue a hobby that brings you joy. Meet friends who lift you up instead of dragging you down. Open your own bank account. Learn about your rights. Every small step towards self-determination is a victory. Every no you say makes you stronger. Every day you stand up for yourself brings you closer to the woman you can be. See out there? The sun is shining. It's a new day. And every new day is a chance for a fresh start. It's never too late for a new chapter. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for sharing my story with me. It wasn't easy to get this personal, but if it helps even one woman find her strength, then it was worth it. Never let anyone tell you that you're not enough. It is never too late to write your own next chapter. Please share this video with any woman who needs to hear that she deserves to be happy. Subscribe for more stories about finding strength in unexpected places. And tell me in the comments, what is one thing you will do for yourself this week? I would love to read it. Your voice matters. Your story matters. You matter.